Hello and welcome to the Afri-Dominion Show. My name is Freeman, Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for joining our program today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us via the social media like Facebook and YouTube, welcome. Welcome. We are so thrilled and so glad that you can find some time out of your busy schedule and joining us today. Please share our conversation as it happens. Be sure to also subscribe and follow our channel. Why? So that you may have an opportunity to know when we are live or when we have a conversation that you may be interested and have an opportunity to come and join us in real time. And I also want to give a huge welcome to the rest of you watching us via television, listening to us via radio station, and a huge thanks to the networks, HMG Network and the affiliates who are broadcasting our signal today. We are super excited for this opportunity to talk to you guys, to hang out with you guys, and to express ourselves and to share our hearts. This conversation here at Afri-Dominion, it's one of those conversations that we have with you all frankly and boldly and with no apologies. Why? We believe in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to measure both the validity, the integrity, and of the content that we are sharing with you during our programs as you see them. And we want to assure you also that we welcome each and every one of you's feedback and feedbacks, because for everything that we are doing, we're doing it for the better of ourselves, for the better of our families, for the better of our communities, and essentially our nations, even the continent. And with that in mind, by all means, those of you who want to get in touch with us, those of you who want to come and hang out with us here at the studio, we would love very much to have you. But also those of you who would love to support us, we want you to know how you can get in touch with us, how you can help us, how you can come and be a participant, active participant, either visibly or behind the scenes of all the projects that we are involved in. And with that in mind, how do you get in touch with us? Please visit our website, which is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Our main email that you can use, it is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. When you reach the website, we do have extra information, especially contact information. Be sure to write down our number in case you want to reach out to us directly via a telephone. Feel free. We are here to, answer you, to connect with you, to cooperate, all of that. But also, we would so very much love that you join our group. It's a private group that's on Telegram. The information is right on the website. When you do go there, you will be able to join, and we would love for you to come and join us. Why? There you will find the rest of us like minds. Those of us going in the same direction, going in the same destinations, and be a part of that. That way you can see, you can feel not just as a collective, but also we can share so many things on the way to where we are headed as a community, all right? And with that in mind, guys, I also want to recognize those of you tuning in for the very first time. This is a brand new show that we have just launched this January. So the concept is new to the networks, but not a new idea. This idea we have had for quite a number of years, but because of both the opportunity and the possibility to make it happen, we had not had that opportunity. This year we had both the opportunity, the resources to make it happen, and here we are. So what is Afri-Dominion? For those of you who may be wondering, what is this and what is Afri-Dominion show? I'll start with the Afri-Dominion. Afri-Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, and encourages a complete and total dominion of Africa by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily, and the rest of the world afterwards. And essentially, the Afri-Dominion show, it's a mouthpiece of that idea. We get to talk with you. We get to inspire you in real time or in programs that may not necessarily be real time. We get to inspire you. We get to advocate for you on your behalf, especially those of you who are voiceless. And we get to encourage each and every one of you, sons, daughters, and African descendants, to take full control of Africa, to take full charge of your own lives, to take full charge of your communities, to take full leadership of your nations. Take the entire control of your countries and take it away from the arms of the outsiders. Have a complete domination of your own homeland. Take control of your inheritance. And we do that one country at a time. Again, all in the interest of African people primarily, and the rest of the world afterwards. It's important. It's important that you listen to how we're saying it and why we're saying it. We are putting our house in order first and foremost, hence primary. We come first in taking care of our own affairs. If we have a mess in our own house, we do not expect outsiders to come and clean our mess. So, as primarily, we are responsible for our own issues. So, even in this conversation here, African descendants, you are the primary target. These issues, they are directly at you primarily, while the rest of the world may help. But you and I, we are first and foremost the one in charge, the one responsible for fixing everything that we might find unworthy of us. Anything that we might find broken, it is our responsibility to fix it. So the program here at Afri-Dominion, we are going to be doing that each and every one of the days. We have 5 days of broadcast. We broadcast from 12 to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, or Washington, D.C. time. And those of you who want to catch us during lifetime, you can find you can find us there. So if you want to come live while we are live, you can actually even participate. We have Zoom that's open, especially those of you who are on social media, which means each and every one of you who wants to participate in any of these shows, you have to connect to Zoom. Where do you find the information of Zoom? You find it on the on YouTube platform. You also find it on Facebook platform, and soon you can also find that particular link straight from the website, so that you know how to immediately join the conversation if it is something that is also beating to your heart. So with the idea of Afri-Dominion, we have broken it down to 5 themes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and Friday. We have different themes that we get to talk to you about. One day, every single day has its own theme. On Mondays, we talk about the we're talking about eradication of African refugees and stateless person conditions. We have plenty of African refugees, both inside of Africa and outside of Africa. We have countless African stateless persons. What is a stateless person? Is that individual who no longer has a country, yet you have a homeland that you come from. So how is it that you get to lose your own homeland and you become homeless in Africa and outside of Africa? We get to talk about that on Mondays. On Tuesdays, we talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementations. Constitution, it's one of the things that's very powerful. African countries have one of the best or one of the most beautiful constitutions throughout this world. One little problem with them: they are beautiful only in papers, but most of them are not very helpful to the people. Those laws in the constitutions are not put in practice in real life. So we want to be able to go over all kinds of laws from policy standpoint. And by the way, young people, I know when you hear of these words, constitution, law, policy, three different things. These are the same thing. However, the weight of a constitution is not the same weight of a regular national law. It's certainly not the same weight as a policy. A policy, it's also a set of instructions which can also be seen as a small little teeny law. We get to break that down on Tuesdays as well. So come and join us on Tuesday. Make sure that you become a part of that. On Wednesdays, it's our testimony day. We get to write our own history, our own way, with no apologies. Africa has a rich history, a rich, buried history. So in this day and age, we want to make sure that our history, we get to write it. And this time is not written by the Europeans, it's not written by the Westerns, United States, or the rest of these nations who actually have had the opportunity to visit the entire continent and to document with details some of the things that were of importance for them to document. Though not the entire documentation, but they have documented everything that was of importance to them. And so this time around, we're saying we would love to be in a position, we are going to be in a position to write our own history for the first time, our own way. And we get to have also the privilege to preserve that history ourselves. You can expect your history, the one that you're writing yourself, to be here 100 years from now, 200, 1,000 years from now. Today we have the technology, we have the resources to make that happen. So when we appeal to you on Wednesdays, when we ask, hey, come and write your own history your own way, it is your first and foremost opportunity to set the record straight. If anyone misrepresents you, if anyone misrepresents your family, if anyone misrepresents your community or even your nation, get on the record, get it straight. And this testimony is directly from you to us, something you have experienced, different from something that you have been taught or told. Make sure that you don't understand the distinctions. On Thursdays, we talk about the spirit of dominion. What is dominion? You notice that I say that we are inspiring, we are advocating, and we are encouraging a complete dominion of Africa by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people, one nation at a time. So what is dominion? Dominion is that governorship, to govern, to rule, to control, to master, to manage the resources of Africa by African people, for the interest of African people primarily, before the rest of the world. So on Thursday, we get to find out, we get to explore, we get to discuss why is it that a wealthy continent as Africa is extremely poor globally, when every single person from the outside of Africa is plundering resources from Africa and taking it to their own homeland. Why is it that Africans, we are just watching it happen? Why is it that some of us, we are selling out the nations, selling out the continent? Why is it that some of us, we are perpetuating this lifestyle of poverty? Because we're seeking or we're looking after our very best interests primarily, instead of the continent, the nation, the villages, the community's interest at hand or at first. So we want to be able to talk about that, and we also want to have some action steps, action plan to rectify that. Fridays, we get to talk about the current events and its impact to Africa and African people. There's so much going on throughout Africa. and so much going on outside of Africa where African people are residing or are found. So we want to have that opportunity also to share with you all that stuff, especially what we see that it's very, very important for you to digest and for you to have a saying in it. And with that in mind, I'd like to welcome you all. Today is Wednesday, as I have just told you. It's a testimony day. So we get to write our own history, and today I am going to continue to where I had left off. Last time I was telling you about the war in Rwanda from 1990 all the way to 1994, I believe. I was getting ready to share with you how the war in 1994 was and what was happening. So today's focus, or the way I have decided to talk about it today, I want to share with you what life was like in the middle of the genocide. For those of you who aren't aware, I was born in Rwanda. So the way I say Rwanda and the way the Western said Rwanda and the way the Europeans say Rwanda is different. In Kenya, Rwanda, we say Rwanda. In English, I say Rwanda. You guys say Rwanda. Okay? So if you hear me say Rwanda and you say Luanda and I say Rwanda, just know that I'm talking about, or I'm referring to the same country. It just depends on my accent. Okay? But don't correct me when I say Rwanda and try to call it the way you want to call it, because I know better how to say Rwanda than you do. Okay? And no disrespect, man, also, because oftentimes I get to have some of people who would say, no, that's not how you say it. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I say it. Now, I have a different accent than you do. The same way, the way you pronounce, you're pronouncing my nation is different, okay? So I just wanted to put it out there, just in case most of you may be wondering, like, what is Rwanda? So it's Rwanda for you Westerners. It's Rwanda for Africans who actually know how to curve the tongue, and you Europeans, most of you actually have gotten to know how Rwanda is spelled. So April 6, 1994, that is the beginning of the darkest day of Rwandan history and every single Rwandese person. Where was I on April 6, 1994? I was just a kid, like I was saying to you guys. I was probably getting close to becoming a teenager, but I was yet to be there. April 6th, we lived in Kigali. We lived in a neighborhood called Kiyovu, not so far from those of you who know where French school is located, or there is a high school that they used to call Lycée de Kigali. So we lived in that neighborhood up there. And those of you who remember a shopping center called Seburikoko, I remember that route. We lived in that vicinity, in that neighborhood there. So, and we call that Kiyovu. That's a reference point for those of you who may be familiar with Kigali City. So April 6th found us there, and that's where we lived. And on that day, we were just minding our own business, as usual. That's what kids do. You just live your own life the way you probably know how. So in the evening, we were just minding our own business as usual, and just a little bit of a quick map out of how we arrived here on April 6th. Those of you who aren't familiar with Rwandan history, from 1990, specifically from October 1st, 1990 to April 6, 1994, Rwanda was in a war with a rebel group called RPF, or the Rwandan Patriotic Front. And these were the descendants, or these were the great-great-grandchildren of the Rwandans who have fled Rwanda during the colonial time in 1959. And so they came back home. They came back home fighting. And from 1990, from October 1st, 1990 to April 6, 1994, Rwanda was in the middle of a war. Now, these refugees, or these Rwandans refugees who came fighting, they were being helped by Uganda, and they were being helped by various Western nations, including the United States, the United Kingdoms, and so forth, even Russia. There are many countries that helped them, but those ones are very significant because up to this very day also, they still run the show in the region. They still run the show with the rebels who have now become the government of Rwanda as it is today. So when we talk about that time period, I told you from October 1st all the way to right now we are arriving to April 6th, what was happening then. And it's very important that you understand why we take, I'm going that chronological order. By the way, this is another one of those conversations that has been a taboo conversations to have openly anyway. But as we grow, as you find yourself, as you realize who you are, and as you realize your own history, and as you actually also testify publicly, it actually diminishes those who have been selling lies, because we've been so silent for more than 28 years, for more than 31 years to others. There are many Rwandese people who are living today, who have gone through the horrific war times from 1990 to 1994, and they would not dare talk about that dark times of their lives. And then from 1994 to today also, there are those who have lived and continue to go through horrific, life experiences, but they would not share because not only it's intense, not only it's extremely personal, it's painful. There are many reasons why we do not share. And of course, there are those who go behind and they rewrite the stories that is a fabrication of what has happened. Example, especially those who were not living in the country today, who tell the story better than the people who were living in the country, who have experienced that particular lifetime. You have Rwandese people who have written books full of lies, who are outside of Rwanda, but they have actually narrated the genocide as if they lived it. You see, it's on Amazon in a lot of the in quite a few. I've seen quite a few of those who actually have been telling lies, and they've taken some time to write it. However, I understand if there is no one to tell the story, whoever that has a story, especially if you eardrop and someone gives you a little story, and then you spice it up to make sure that it tastes good, it feels good, and perhaps you can get a movie out of it. But I want you to know, guys, especially you Africans, and even the rest of the world, because this is being televised and most of you are listening to it. It's important that if you have a story to tell, if you have a testimony to say, to write, do write it your own way. Do not wait for someone to come and dictate to you how you are going to tell it and when to tell it. You decide when to tell it, when it's befitting to you to tell it. Some of you have trauma. Deep trauma, mild trauma, or the kind of trauma that you can easily manage. All of us, if you have gone through a war, you absolutely have have some sort of trauma. One of the reasons behind most of us now share some of these painful memories is because of trauma. Every time you tell the story, it's like you are reliving that particular time period. But at some point, we have to tell it. We have to write our story, our history, if we so want to preserve it. That way, another generation in front of us or many, many years ahead of us won't have to relive the same, the same predicament. So here we are, April 6th. On April 6th, where was I? Our family, we had two residences, one in Kigali, which is the capital of Rwanda, and then another one in Cyangugu, which is in the western Rwanda. Today, Cyangugu, it's in the western province of Rwanda. So, April 6th, as we were in Kigali, and I don't remember if we were on vacation or if we were maybe close to being on vacation. I don't quite remember. But I know that we were in Kigali, specifically in Kiyovu. And so we heard a boom, a noise. But since we were accustomed to a few guns here and there, oftentimes you would hear maybe like a loud noise that may sound like a grenade. So you would sometimes hear those noise and you were not as concerned because it's became a part of life. Especially when we moved from Ruhengeri to Kigali, it became a bit more manageable. It became a bit more manageable, and the noise and the fear of wars was a bit more okay. So in Kigali, April 6th, roughly, sometimes I think it was maybe close to 8:30 in the evening. So we heard a loud noise as usual, like boom boom, like a bomb, like a bomb going off. Okay, so we didn't think too much into it until the national radio immediately, like a few minutes afterwards, they start playing classic music. So one of the key indicators in Rwanda, as far as I remember, every time something bad would happen, especially on the national level, the radio, the national radio, which was Radio Rwanda, would actually play classic music. It happened when we lived in Ruhengeri. It has happened multiple times when there were, very tragic things happening. So immediately we were like, oh God, something is wrong. Our father was like, yeah, definitely there's something wrong, but he didn't want to discuss it. So we tried to go to sleep, but we start listening, we start hearing now gunshot. And during the gunshot, it started reminding us like in Ruhengeri when we were, when we listened to the gunshot there. So that evening, we overheard gunshot nonstop, but they were not continuous gunshot. There was like, they would just stop here and then continue and then stop and continue and then stop and continue. So it was like that throughout the evening. And 1 second. And so the gunshot comes, and when those gunshots were going, we started feeling a big concern, like, this can be real, because we just could not imagine a war in Kigali, because Kigali, it's almost like in the center. So before, for the war to arrive in Kigali, that would entail that Byumba, which is a border province, Ruhengeri, which is another border province, and Kibungo, they would have to have been overrun by the rebel for them to arrive in Kigali. So the math was not adding up right. What was up with the gunshot? Why were we listening to the guns throughout? And so that whole evening, the guns kept on going, and then they became a bit more intense, definitely more intense. So right then and there, we knew that something was definitely wrong. That whole night, we knew the drill. You don't go to sleep in your bed. You go in the corridor. Thank God to most of the African homes. At least back in those days, the majority of the homes were built in bricks. If it was not in bricks, it was in the regular mud. But the things we call rukarakara, which is almost like the walls were very thick, which meant for a bullet to just penetrate and come and find you in your house, it was almost impossible. Unlike here in the United States, homes are built in woods. So imagine you have a Kalashnikov and you're shooting. There's no way you can bail. The bullets are gonna come inside. So these homes, and most of the African homes, are not built like Europeans or the homes in the United States, where the majority of these homes are literally woods and very light wood. So we ducked instead of sleeping because we didn't want the bullets to come through the windows. We went under. We literally went on the floor. So, but most of the homes in Africa, they also have a corridor. In the corridor, there are no windows. So which means you have two walls that are actually protecting you. So there is an outside wall that has windows. So for a bullet to penetrate through that outside wall and then come in and also penetrate through the corridor, it's almost impossible unless it's maybe one of those bullets being shot by like a helicopter. Those ones are a bit more stronger and they can penetrate faster and stronger than a regular bullet. So given that we knew the drill, we literally went back again in the corridor and we stayed there. And then, we made ourselves comfortable because we thought that, this is going to go away sometimes. It's not going to be... thank you. April 6th was school break. Thank you for reminding me. I just got reminded because I just couldn't quite remember whether it was we were on break or not. But it was Easter holiday, Easter break. Yeah, thank you so much, and Wolf. So on that break, we were literally just minding our business. In the evening, the gunshot goes on, and then early in the morning, we found out that the plane carrying the president of Rwanda, Habyarimana Juvenal, was shut down. But also even then, they did eventually say it on the radio station that that the plane carrying the president had an accident. It was shut down actually. And so immediately once we found out about that, the whole neighborhood was very quiet, because remember the whole evening until the morning there was like gunshots all over Kigali. You could just hear it, though it was not in our own neighborhood. It wasn't there, but you could just hear it. That it was like those of you who are familiar with Kigali, from Kiyovu to Gikondo, it's like across the mountain. So you could hear noise. You could tell where the noise was coming from. So that whole area in Gikondo, also like Rugunga, in that neighborhood in Rugunga, you could hear noise. And also Mburabuturo, I think that's like a mountain across. So they were literally gunshot. You could hear gunshot coming. But in our immediate neighborhood, we didn't have any guns going there, except that we were afraid, And so the next day, of course, we come out, but we sort of like came out to the to the backyard, and we're trying to find out what was happening. And our neighbors, they were like, you know what, things are going bad, things are crazy. We're trying to leave the country. Oh no, we try to leave Kigali. And we're like, what are you guys talking about? So they were like, well, haven't you guys heard? The president, the president's plane had been shut down. And we're like, oh, shoot. So this is really serious. But because you could just feel that something was off already in the air, we just didn't know what to do. We literally did not know what to do. So remember, we had just moved from Ruhengeri, right, where we had wars. At least you thought that you could flee and come to Kigali. People in Byumba, which was another bordering region or province, right where the war started, they could flee, go into Kigali. So now imagine you live in the capital. Where are you going to flee? So we sort of like were clueless, but we were also afraid. We just didn't know what to do. So our father was like, okay, we'll just wait and see what happens. So on the 7th, we sort of like mind our businesses. We stay outside. The bullets, the guns, they sort of like it was not as bad anymore on the 7th. I remember you could hear guns, but not in the neighborhood. So we made sure not to go on the streets, but we were literally in the backyard and trying to sort of like get to know how everybody else was in our neighborhood. We were sort of like visiting them to see what was happening. One thing for sure, everybody was afraid and nobody was going in the streets. The streets were dead, no vehicle, no nothing, except that we could see, every once in a while you could see military vehicles passing by for like patrols or something. And so on the 7th, we were there. We spent the whole day trying to listen to the radio station. The whole day was classic music also. Once in a blue moon, someone would come on the microphone and they would just say some gibberish, and then they will go back and then we will listen to some classic music. On the 9th, we went to sleep. On the 9th, things started getting worse now. Now, more military presence started showing, but now in particular, on the 9th, there was a home that we used to live. One of our neighbors, the military came to the house there, and apparently they were looking for for the family that lived there. So funny thing, we could hear what they were asking, and they went there. The family wasn't there, but the maid, or it's like the person who helps around the house, there was someone who was left behind, and so they asked him, where's your boss? I'm like translating. They were like, patro orihe, like where's your patron? Where's your boss? Where's the head of the family? And so the guy says he's not here. So, but they thought that he was lying because everybody was hiding. So they were like, we're not gonna ask you again, where is he? So he said he wasn't there. He had already left. So the guys became a bit more agitated, and before we knew it, the guy, they shot him. We could see him. They literally killed him. So as soon as they killed the guy, now we literally went back and we went and hide in the house. We were like looking in the windows, and as soon as the gun went off, it was literally in the proximity in front of us, like what, maybe 20, 30 meters away from our house. We were in the windows. We were like, oh shoot, they might be coming now house to house to ask where that family was. It became worse. Just as we had predicted, we found out that they had a list of people that they were looking for. But not every house had a number in Kigali. Some homes had numbers, others didn't have numbers. So when they were coming to search for these individuals, for the homes that didn't have numbers, they had to just knock house to house, house to house, house to house. So essentially, as soon as they left there, we went and hide. We ducked because we were like, oh my goodness, they actually are going to come for us as well. Minding you, one of the things I did mention to you guys, in my family, our parents were politically active. And then they were not just politically active, but they were actually in opposition parties. So, and apparently the military had a long list of the people who had to go answer to what was happening. And amongst of those, all the main key opposition party members, they were going to have to be called in. So we started adding 2 and 2 together, and we're like, oh shoot, they may actually end up coming to our house as well. because the people that they were looking for, we knew also that they were, in the opposition party. And also almost our neighbors, most of them were in opposition with the exception of the few. Others, they just were like the one you can call it being in the wrong time, wrong place at the wrong time. So they left, and then a couple hours later, they started coming house to house knocking. And we were like, now they're going to kill us. That was on the 9th, remember. So late in the afternoon, they came back and they were knocking. So as they were knocking, oh my God, we could just remember that guy that they killed. By the way, when they killed him, they left him in their own backyard. They did not bother taking the body. No, they just left him there. So we were like, shoot, they might actually come and kill us also. We couldn't run outside. We could not go anywhere else. And those of you who know the house in Kigali, those homes in Kigali, you didn't have a basement. There was no basement to hide. So you have very limited places where you could hide. In our place, the ceiling, it was locked. We could not go in the ceiling. So we had to figure out where to hide in the house. And going in the ceiling, it was gonna be obvious. If they came and looked, they were more likely, they could easily see like, okay, these people may have gone through here and they may be in the ceiling. So I remember they came and knocked on our house, and then and we didn't say anything. But because again, they didn't know whose house it was, our house also didn't have a number. That whole row of our neighborhood, neither one of those houses had a number. But of course, as we knew who was who in that neighborhood. And so I remember when they came and knocked, we didn't answer. The guy became agitated. They were like, why don't you just shut the door and get in and just check? And then the very next door of ours, when they knocked, someone opened a door. And when they opened the door, the guy who was agitated on our house, they were like, where are the people who live here? So the guy was like, oh, they're not there. They have already gone. So it sort of like made them not actually shut the door. So they were like, so where is you people? Who lives here? They were asking him. And then they looked on the list. They realized that it wasn't the person who was on the list. And then they were like, is there any cockroach in the house? The cockroach, it was code name for the robbers, Inyenzi. And the guy was like, no, we don't have any cockroaches in the house. And then funny thing, when they were now asking for that guy, again we heard a gunshot going off. And apparently that gunshot went off across the road on another one of those homes. It was a very, very, very it was a home that lived that was occupied by one of the renowned person in the country. And so, in that individual, when the gunshot went there, everybody who was actually running some sort of inquiry to our road, they ran to the house because they thought that maybe they had found some cockroaches there. So on that day, I remember we were like, oh my God, we are absolutely dying. So thank God they didn't come in the house, and our neighbors, they lied on our behalf. And I'm so grateful to you guys because you made them not come to our house. And so now, 2 days after, on the third day, on the 10th, I remember, we also sort of like, we didn't even go in the window because now we knew things were really crazy. We could hear constantly vehicles going back and forth. Every once in a while you could hear guns going off, but it was still not in our neighborhood. And then we started hearing actually now vehicles carrying Intela Hamwe. You could hear the noise. There were songs that they used to sing. You could tell that it was them. So our father was like, do not go in the windows. Stay where you are, and that's it. So on the 10th comes in, we were there, same, 11th, 12th, and then we started having food problem. Remember, in Rwanda, most people don't have a lot of food in the house. You have to go shop, especially that not everybody has a refrigerator. So given that the fact that the food is fresh, you buy only what you need for almost a week or maybe a few days throughout the week, there were no markets open. So then I remember from the 12th, we start running out of food. On the 13th, on the 14th, we have very little food. We only had igikoma, which is like, what do you call igikoma, guys? Those of you on chat, tell me what you call igikoma. So we had that, and we had sugar, and I think that's all we had left. So from the 12th, on the 13th, and the 14th, our breakfast was igikoma, which was like millet, I think, if I translate it to an English here. So we had like a liquid millet. So for the morning, igikoma, lunchtime, igikoma, evening time, igikoma. It was just like almost drinking, like water. And we started diluting it also. It was not as thick as they normally make it. And we had a little bit of sugar also. And then, so we hung in there. We absolutely would get quiet every time we would hear vehicles passing by, because we have overheard that they were actually now looking for people, specific list that they had. And so I remember our phone, somebody called. In Kenya, they call it porridge. Ah, okay. Thank you, Mary. So we literally lived on porridge from the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th. Yeah, for almost 5 days, that's what we drank. We drank it in the morning, we drank it during the daytime, and we drank it in the evening. And we were like, man, this is getting tough. On the 17th, now the military came back in the whole neighborhood. And this time around, they were literally searching. They were literally searching. And so, and when they came back this time around, again, on our neighborhood, they sort of like have been marking homes, whose house they have been going through. I remember when they came back to our place, they knocked, and when they knocked again, one of them was like, oh, we had already gone there. So they didn't break down the house, the door. Next door, they also went and they were like, yeah, we already spoke to this guy. On the third door, which the third house, it was a Russian family. This time around, they went there, and the men answered the door. And as soon as they saw him, they were like, this one is good. What did that mean? Let me also be that clear. So there is a way in Rwanda, they will look at your personal features. They could say that you are a Hutu, you are Tutsi, you are something. They couldn't. I don't think they ever say Twa. Twa is a third tribe. So the man on the third house, he responded to the door. As soon as he came out of it, they didn't even search, because he just fit the right bill. He just fit the category of those who are safe to have. So essentially, because his features, they didn't ask him anything else. Now, that man was married to a Russian lady. Now, a Russian, a Belgian, a French, as long as you didn't look like a Rwandese. By that time, we had already found out that the Belgian had a hand in the shutdown of the plane. That's what they were saying. But also they were saying that the Belgian has sold out the country. So if you looked like a white person in the country, you were in trouble. This person was married to a Russian woman, and they had children. They had a kid. So the man was quickly to come out so that they don't come in his house. That way they don't find out that he has a white person in there, even though Russian people are not white people. Also, we were told. So the men come out, and then they left alone his house. And as soon as they did a patrol again, they told us, they were speaking, on the outside, like, if you are housing a cockroach, you are also, that means that you are also an enemy of the state. They were saying, ngo nimba mufite inyenzi mwese muraza gupfira hamwe. Like if you are housing a cockroach in the house, all of you are going to die together. That's what they were saying. I remember that when they were making an announcement in our neighborhood. So as soon as we heard that, now that the patrol and the house search became more real, on the 17th, we ran out porridge. We literally ran out, but we still had sugar. We didn't have tea anymore. We didn't have the tea to use with. So we only had water, sugar, and fear in the house. We had completely run out of food. Our neighbors didn't have food either, because they sort of like came I remember at first, they were like, do you guys have some food? And we're like, we don't have food, but we have porridge. So we gave them some. Even they ran out. And then on the 17th, our parents, they would go and sort of like talk to each other. And so on the 17th, they were like, you know what? They're going to kill us here. Because our house, we sort of like could have been in danger if they knew who we were. Our next door neighbors, they were literally the kind of people they were looking for. The third house was that man who was married to a Russian woman who also could potentially be killed because they could easily mistaken her for a Belgian. The following home further down there, they were also some sort of like opposition. I don't remember what they did, but they were not exactly the ideal kind of people for that particular environment. So they were like, you know what? We have to leave. The problem, we have found out that they had started laying down the barracks or the barriers on the streets. On the barrier or barrière in French, on those barracks, they were actually checking IDs to make sure that if you were a cockroach, you were going to die. If you fit the feature, if your physical feature looked like you were a cockroach, they will kill you. And we were like, okay. So first and foremost, as children, we didn't have IDs. Only grown-ups had IDs. If you were under 18, you didn't have an ID. Even at school also, the IDs we had, they were like called fake IDs. It would just show your name, but I don't even remember whether they were putting pictures. So you could easily take someone else's ID. So they decided that we had to leave, and we were so afraid because we were like, man, they might actually kill us. But then our father was like, you know what? At this point, we stay in the house, we die because we had no food. We stay in the house also, potentially once they find out who we are, they may come and kill us anyway. Same with the neighbors. They were like risks. So we were like, okay, we're just going to have to leave. That's the way it is. Cream of wheat or millet. Sorghum, all called the jikoma, uji, porridge. Oh yes, those of you Swahili speaking, uji. So we lived on uji for like 5 days until we ran out on the 17th. So on the 17th of April, that's when we ventured out of the house. That was a crazy day because those of you who are familiar with Kiyovu, so we have to leave from our house. We headed toward the street that made it all the way to Sebirikoko's house. That was like a popular shop that used to have bread. So imagine from our neighborhood going towards Sebirikoko and then going up on Kiyovu, on the Kiyovu route, going towards the main city, the main in the city. We were headed towards home point. So, and by the way, that was by foot. Most of the vehicle have been actually taken by military. If you own a home, if you own a vehicle, the military came in and they took some of those vehicles, or at least a few of our neighbors. We saw the vehicles being taken. They were borrowing it, they said. So we We went by foot. Our whole entire neighbor, we went by foot. And remember, on the ninth they killed someone. That body started stinking in our neighborhood because it was still right where they left him. So we were even afraid to look at him. So God bless, his soul. May he rest in peace. So he started stinking. And we were like, man, we may actually become like him. So we picked up a few things and we headed out. We walked. And as we walked, you could see a few white people who were still left behind. Remember, when the plane was shut down, there were almost no evacuation. That first week, from what we have gathered later on, a few foreign nationals were able to be evacuated. But for you to be evacuated, actually, I guess your embassies or something, I don't know how that took place, but we did see a few foreign nationals who were still left behind, because our neighborhood was a mixture of foreign nationals and those who either worked for the government and so on, and the school and Lycée do Kigali. So it was actually like people who worked for the government and the school, and some of the diplomats, and those foreign nationals who had some sort of business in the country. So as we were passing by, you could see some of the vehicles, you could see the dogs, sometimes you could see people peeping in the windows. So we started walking. The more we walked outside, other people gained the courage, and they were like, so where are you guys going? We said, we are fleeing. They're like, they have barracks, so you guys may not necessarily get past it. So we're like, you know what, we're just gonna try anyway. So we headed out. We arrived to Sebrikoko. The place was very nicely shot, nothing going on that road, on the Kiyovu route. We started going up towards the main, towards Rompoy in Kigali City. So we went there. We immediately made the first barracks. Thank God that one was by, the military was, were on it. So they were like, where are you guys going? So we're like, we are fleeing. So they were like, your IDs. We gave them our IDs. And so they would look at everybody. And then they start realizing that we had one white person who was walking with us. They were like, are you from Brussels? Or are you Belgian? And she's like, no, I'm Russian. And they were insist, like, are you, they would ask him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times same question. And she kept on saying, no, I'm Russian. And then her husband would actually quickly come and be like, no, this is my wife. She's from Russia, and this is my child. So they had it rough. Almost they were attracting the attention, which I think actually it did help a few family members who were like Tutsis and stuff that we were riding with, because remember they had said that white people had killed the president, and these were also part of the traitors in the country. Like, if you were white during that time, you pretty much were in serious problems, especially if you happen to be from Belgium. So since they could not differentiate, the same way they couldn't differentiate a Hutu, Twa, and Tutsi, they were just assuming. So now the attention went and the focus went on them. So they looked at us quickly and they started interrogating them. So we were like, no, these are good people and all of that. So eventually they let them go. And so you could see the panic. She started turning pink. And the husband, you could see that he was really worried. So all of us, remember, we were just kids. All the kids in the neighborhood, you could see parents and kids, all of us together. Hazard to rewrite his history. So we went past Sebrikoko, the first barracks, just a little bit after Sebrikoko on Kiyovu route. We kept on going up towards Rompoy. So we arrived there, everything very quiet. It was like us on the road, just us by foot. We kept on going, and then eventually we reached Rompoy. when we arrive there, then we start seeing Interahamwe. Now, these Interahamwe, they were like these people who were not military, but they had machetes and some of them had guns. My goodness. So we arrived there. These guys, I don't know if they were drunk or if they had some sort of like drugs in them, but they were out of control. Literally. So we arrived to the first barrack. So they asked for IDs. Of course, the grown-ups gave IDs, and then they start asking, where are you taking these little cockroaches? So now we were the cockroaches. Remember, we were skinny as I don't know what. We looked exactly like the people that just shouldn't have been living during that time frame. So they were like, where are you taking these cockroaches? And then where are you taking this Belgian lady? So they would take us and be like, these ones, you guys can go. These ones have to stay behind. So now our parents, they started fighting on our behalf. They're like, no, these are our children. And they were like, give us IDs. Remember, we were underage. We didn't have IDs. And then they were like, how do we know that you guys are not lying? So there is a thing, ichibatiri, a machete. It has a sharp edge that's used to cut. Then there is another edge that's not sharp. Every time that they wanted to sort of like bring out an animal before they butcher it, they would actually hit you with the side machete to sort of like pin you down. And once you get pinned down, then they could actually chop you. So, given that the barracks there were so many people there, and they would just pickpocket people in there. So when they were checking for our IDs, like, where are you taking these cockroaches? The parents were like, no, these are our children. And our fathers was like, whatever you do, make sure you do not let go of me. So all of us who were holding on him, was like 4 of us, plus our helpers at home, 2 of them, and then we were with our neighbors as well. So the plan was, all of us, we gotta stick together no matter what they were going to do. So they were saying, where are you taking the cockroaches? We said we are not cockroaches, but we could not prove it. And of course, as that was taking place, the ones who were much older, they could easily be taken out. And I remember on the way up, there are a couple of them who literally got killed over there on the first barracks on the Rompoint. And we also did see them, sort of like chopping other people. Guys, when I talk about this, I want you to know that picture me 28 years ago, a kid. This will be like now the 3rd time I witness death, but this time literally now in very close proximity. The first 2 times, one I was in the window looking at it about 30 or 40 meter, and before that I was in the back of a truck in Ruhengeri, something like 3 meters away. Now this time around, it was now us right in the middle of it. They were like picking people out of the crowd, and people getting chopped off, like the way you would kill a goat, the way you would slaughter a sheep. So one thing that I can always hear in my nose, it was the noise. People were screaming and people were crying. And we have become like, you couldn't feel nothing. It's like you reach a point where you are so afraid that you just become like you just, it's like you don't feel. It's like you lose your brain. So we had literally reached that point, because as we were coming up, we started realizing, like, you know what? It's just a matter of time. Whatever happens, it may happen. But remember, we left our house with few things in the bag. I remember they started selling. They basically started giving them stuff so that they could easily let us go. And my father had a few things in the bag. And I remember he had a watch, he had a few things, he had some clothes, he had a suit. So he left him a suit, he left him a little bit of some shoes, I think. And he was buying us. Remember, we had to go through there were at least 8 more barriers we had to go past. From Kigali Rompwe, this is like the main route. For those of you who are not familiar with Rwanda, so from the main road, we had, in order for us to leave the nation's capital, we had to like take the main road going out. For you to go to head on out, there were those barriers. There were at least 6 barracks that you had to go past. No, there were 7, because it was 9, all of them together, from our house to the last person where we had this angel that helped us out. It was 9 of them. How do I know it? I kept on thanking God for each and every one of those barracks that we would actually get past. And so they gave him shoes, they gave him a suit, and then they were like, okay. They were like, no problem. We know that you guys are not going to get past the next one anyway. So it was like they knew we were not going to get past because of our physical feature. So we moved on to the 3rd barrack. And also we found more Interahamwe and a few soldiers. These guys have machetes that had blood on it. You could see people who had already been killed, like on the sides of the streets. These barracks, they had literally people, like fresh people that they had already slaughtered. So as we were going down the 3rd barracks, we passed by also same routine. Give us your IDs. Where are you taking these cockroaches? And again, they would try to negotiate. Those negotiations, oftentimes, they didn't work. Because remember, this time around, it wasn't us. The more we were going down, everybody had to go through that route in order for you to get out of Kigali. And all of us, we were by foot. Surprisingly, we didn't see people riding vehicles. And so it was easy because the crowd was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you could always hear when someone was getting killed. You could just hear a scream. So, and our father was like, whatever you do, keep on going forward. Do not look left and right unless it's our turn. And then he got to the point, he was like, because we could see that people they were killing a bit more people. Every single one of the barriers of those barracks we went by. On the 3rd barracks, we didn't lose anybody, but they were beating somebody else. They were literally beating someone else. I don't know whether they killed him eventually, but they were literally chopping somebody. And so they let us go. And on the 3rd barrack, on the 4th barrack, we also arrived there. Same questions. I remember we got a few beatings. But then they were like, you know what? Someone else is going to kill you. They kept on referring to the very next barrack, the very next barrack, the very next barrack. We went down to the 5th one. The 5th one also, our dad had to sell his watch. It was the only, valuable thing he had. On the 6th barrack, we literally had a few things left. Clothes only. We had clothes and we had sugar and water. Yeah. And so they just talked. They were like, you know what? You cannot touch my children. These are my children. They are underage. They don't have IDs. So it was pretty much same thing from the 1st barrack all the way to the 6th. But on the 6th barrack, they just really like went back and forth, And then eventually they saw, we were still with the Russian family. Then they saw the white lady again. For some reason, and I don't know why that happened. By the time we kept on going back and forth with them, as soon as they would notice that we are with a white person, now the attention will go back towards her again. And of course, the husband was a Hutu straight up. I mean, you couldn't even deny it. But he would say, "This is my wife," and then he will show them his passport, his ID. No, she had a passport, and he had an ID. His ID, it was showing her names in the ID, and they were matching. And she's like, "No, you see, I'm not, I'm not from Belgium." So, and then they will go back and forth, back and forth. They were like, "Well, you look like them." And at some point, they actually beat her. They beat her on the 7th barrack a little bit. And we were like, "My God, we are surely going to die here." And then on the 7th barrack, we arrived there as well. They interrogated us. This time, they sat us down. So we sat down. They interrogated us. And again, where are you taking these cockroaches? They were referring to us, the children. Our father would be like, "These are my children." Surprisingly, all our names were there, except we just didn't have IDs. We could not prove that we were them. But a child and a parent, you can tell if someone belongs to you or not, especially as a child. So we were clinging. We were very clingy to him because it was like, whatever we do, if we run together. Whatever happens, it happens together, all of us. But prior to arriving there, it had gotten worse to the point where at some point they were like, "Now listen, if they kill us, go for the person who has a gun. Like, we have to find some strength and just find someone who has a gun." They were like, "Just go for the person who has a gun." Of the roadblocks. Yes, the roadblocks. Thank you. Actually, I just got corrected. Anyway, that I was saying is the barracks. I'm referring to the roadblocks. These roadblocks, that's where they're killing the people. Thank you. Barrière. Okay, roadblocks. Thank you. The roadblocks. So, on that, given that many people have left those first 7 barracks, they have killed people in front of, with us looking. So they arrive at a point where they're like, "So in case we shall die, make sure that you look for someone who has a gun. Let them be the one who potentially kill you," basically. But they didn't want to mention, let them be the one who kill you. But they were like, just run for the person who has a gun. So I remember that. All of us will remember that. So on the 7th, they beat down the Russian lady and her husband as he was defending them. And eventually, because I think these people, given that they had been killing, they became a bit more desensitized. You could see someone who was much more vicious and one who was inexperienced, you know what I mean? So on that 7th one, they were like, "These cockroaches, they stay there, sit down," bam, they push us down. And once they push us all down, and then it was quite a few number of us. It wasn't just us neighbors, there were quite a few other people. And as long as they said sit them down, they were cherry picking the people that they wanted to sit down. So when they pushed us, our father came down with us, and the Russian lady came down with her husband, and I think there were another immediate neighbor that all of us were pinned down, and their children would just look like we were cockroaches. So they were like, well, they will take the machete and they will go like they will go on the streets, on the pavement, like, and you could just see the lights coming. They're like, "Man, we are about to die." So you guys in these countries that we live in, most of you cannot relate, especially that most of you don't have any machetes in your own household. In Rwanda, every house had a machete. We had a machete. But this time around, the machete that were being used to either cut down the trees and all of that, because most of the homes, they use regular wood to cook food. A machete is a regular tool in Rwanda. In Interahamwe, were using machetes because it was the first weapon that they had available at home. Okay, even we have machete, but we didn't bring a machete with us. So they were actually sharpening machetes on on the streets. Remember, these were paved streets, so you could see the little fire coming off. We're like, oh my God, we are dying. So they beat us down a little bit, and then eventually, on the barrier before us, I think people were fighting them. So those guys who were getting ready to kill us, they were called on the barrack on number 6. So when they called them on number 6, so they were like, you know what? You guys keep on moving forward. You're not gonna get past the 8th barrack anyway. So we arrived on the 8th barrack. As soon as we arrived there, we didn't have anything else to trade. We only had sugar left. So on that 8th barrack, now they were like, well, give us your IDs. We didn't have ID. And they were like, where are you taking these cockroaches? I mean, it was literally same line. It's like they knew exactly what to say. Again, they say, you know what? These are not, these are my children. That was that. And of course, everybody would literally say the same. They were like, these are our children. We were with a few families that had children of the same age. And of course, we're like, not these will stay. You all can keep on going, but these ones have to remain with us. And so as it became a little rough again, so they were like, well, these are not our children. By the way, please, really let us go. You can have so many other things to fight with. So they were just talking some bull, just trying to, they were trying to say anything just to let us go. Except that they kept on saying, these are our children, we are not cockroaches. These are our children, we are not cockroaches. I mean, they were repeating it. Even as it got to the point, we would just try to look like we were not cockroaches. I remember there was a point, literally, we had to sort of like look like this so that we can look like the Hutus. It's like you had to force your nose to look big. We did some strange things because by that time we had already realized that a nose will give you up. If you had a sharp nose, you were considered Tutsi. If you had a flat nose, you were considered a Hutu. And us, we just didn't have a nose. You couldn't see it. So it's like you sort of like were trying to look mean so that you can just pass out like a Hutu. But that also couldn't buy you out because some people got killed anyway because they were still skinny. So if you're skinny and you have a flat nose, you were still getting butchered. So we were skinny and you couldn't see our nose. So it was neither flat nor sharp. So you just couldn't recognize. So we were Tutsis, period. And so I remember on the 8th one, right before they were trying to kill us, these guys were also hungry. They were like, do you have liquor? Do you have beer? There were some first items that they were looking for. And if you didn't have them, then you can probably negotiate. So as soon as they start running down to the list of what they wanted, our dad was like, no, we don't have it. And he was like, well, I just gave my watch to the last guy. What can I give you? Would you like my shoes? Would you like my clothes? I mean, he was trying to sell anything and everything just to, so we can get up. And eventually he was like, well, I have some sugar, but it's for my children. And the guy was like, for those cockroaches? He's like, I'll take that sugar. And I kid you not, guys, we only had, my God, just picture like a 20 ounce cup. Okay, those of you who are like beer drinkers, look at a size of beer glass, like a nice sizable beer glass. The amount of sugar we had, a grown person could not hold it in their hands. I think it was only enough to fill that. And so eventually it was like, I only have the sugar and this is all we have. And it's for these little children of mine so we could actually walk. So one of them was like, no, it's not going to be for the cockroaches. So he's like, yeah, we'll take it. And it looks like you guys won't get past anyway, the next barrier. So literally, my life, my siblings' life, got to the point where it was its value was a small teeny bag of sugar, like enough sugar that you can fill in a beer glass. And so we gave it to them and they let us go. The Russian woman, they were like, well, she's one of them anyway, they can kill her at any given time. So right then and there, we no longer had sugar. We no longer had anything to use to bribe them. It was now us and only us. We arrived to the most vicious roadblock now, the 9th roadblock. On that 9th roadblock, we arrived there. These guys, I think they were drunk. And they were not even beating around the bushes. As soon as they saw us, they were like, cockroaches on the side. They were just instructing. They were not even asking like, where are you taking the cockroaches? They were like, cockroaches right here. The others go right here. They were like, you. And they weren't even asking. They were just instructing you like, right there, right there, right there, right there. So we arrived there, and of course they were like, all of you cockroaches right there. And then as soon as we were like, we're not cockroaches, as soon as our father said, these are my children and our cockroaches, they literally just pushed him. And then as they pushed him, all of us, they pushed us down on the floor, on the pavement on the street. And as they were pushing us, our father stood up again, and they were like, oh, now you guys are gonna fight. But he did not want to fight. He just was like, okay, I'm not gonna go down like that. So they came again, and this time they took, remember the machete? That side of the machete that, that's like flat. They grabbed that thing and they smacked it at me on my head, and then they smacked it at me on my back. I'm like, damn, now this is it, we are dying. So remember, I'm just a little kid, I'm skinny, I don't have any weight on me. So they hit me a couple times with that side of the machete, and then immediately after they hit me again with that machete in my back, and then I fall down. When I fell down, Dad was like, oh shoot, I think my kids are gonna die right now. So Dad immediately, he comes down, and then he was like this. He was basically like right in front of us, try to be like, these are my children, these are my children, these are my children. Remember, they did not ask for an ID. They just wanted to kill us. The Russian woman, same thing. They didn't ask for no identification, no nothing. They just hit us all down. And few others that we didn't know, all of us, they put us down. And these guys were just ready to chop us down. They were ready to kill us, literally. And as we were getting down, of course, you could hear like, and then they were making noise. The noise itself, if it didn't kill you, by the time they slaughter you, you were already dead. Because between the noise that they were making and also the beating that we were getting, you could just feel like you were already dead. Like literally, like you were already dead. And I remember as they were beating us down, something happened, and I could swear, I believe, you cannot tell me that it wasn't so. Today, that's what I chose to believe. All of a sudden, a machine gun went off. Those of you who don't know machine gun, it's like a big, heavy gun. Literally, it started at right where we were. These guys were beating us down, hitting us, and they had already started chopping some people. And as they were doing that, and we were screaming, a machine gun start shooting right where we were. And as it started shooting, all of them, they duck. All those with the machetes, they started ducking down because they didn't want to get shot, obviously. I do not know what happened. The next thing I knew, I just stood up and I ran. Running where? I don't know. But I was like, remember they had told us, find someone who had a gun. I was like, this is it. I'm dead anyway. So I just ran, randomly running. Thank God. They kept on shooting and I was just running. because I was like, nah, I'm gonna die. So I was like, okay, it's fine if I die by a bullet, it's fine. But at least I don't want to be chopped like those other people who had just gotten chopped. So I ran, maybe for about 30 to 40 or 50 meters. I ran and I ran and I ran. And then I remember just like a few meters away, it must have been like 50, because I remember I ran as fast and as strong as I could run. And as I was running, the guns, the bullets, they kept on going. You could just hear the bullet touching down to the pavement. And I ran 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 and I ran. And I think I tripped on something like 30 or 40, 50 meters further down up. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna die anyway. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get up again from here. And then afterwards, the gun went off for like at least 30 seconds, non-stop. And as soon as the gun stopped, so all those who had, all those who had machetes, of course, they couldn't come back up. The soldiers, they were now shooting like nowhere. They were trying to shoot. They took cover and they were shooting, but they didn't know who they were shooting at. And then after that, I could hear parents calling out their children, our neighbors' children, friends. And our father called. He called for me. He called for my brother. He called my and my other siblings. And then I screamed that I'm here. And so all of a sudden also they just ran. They came in running towards where I was, and a couple of other persons that we were running with. So as soon as they arrived there, we were like, we know we are going to die. It's inevitable here. Dad was like, you know what, it's fine. We're just gonna, we'll do it together. So he was like, it was like, come down. And so at that point, when the bullet stopped, the intel hammer comes back again. And the military, they're like, well, stop, where you going? So they came back where we have arrived. And they were like, cockroaches, you are now leaving. And then again at that point, as soon as they were coming back again, because we knew we were not going to get past that roadblock, another angel came. And this time around, it was a soldier, a military soldier with bullets, with gun, with ready. It's like, whoa, don't touch my family. I was expecting them. We've never seen this guy before. We have never seen him before in our whole entire life. But he lied that we were his family. Just imagine, guys. You are getting chopped, you are getting killed, and someone out of the blue comes in and says, this is my family. I was coming for them. So remember all those intel hamwes with machetes ready to kill us. So they were like, well, you don't have enough gun, you don't have enough bullets. We can kill you too. So he was like, okay, is that so? He took his gun and he charged it up. And as he charged it up, you could imagine us were like, man, we're dead anyway. He's like, you touch any of them and I'm gonna kill you. And of course, he tells us, hey, you know what? Keep on going. And so those intel hamwe, they were like, you know what? We know you, we see you. They were like, we know if you come back here, you are going to die. They were telling him, but eventually they actually let us go, because now we found someone who had a gun, a soldier. Now, whether this guy was a real soldier, he had military uniform, I remember. And so we were like, who are you? But we didn't ask him that. But you could tell we wanted to find out, who are you? But that time I was like, God, I know you exist, but thank you. because I knew right then and there we were dead, we were going to die. And he was like, all of you, let's go. All of us looking like we were, like, when you just lost your brain, when you don't think. It's like you on autopilot. Whatever you're told you do, but you're not really thinking about it. I remember he was just telling us to go left, we'll go left. Tell us to go right, we'll go right. We were just like the way you would direct a stupid person who doesn't have a thinking mechanism in the head. Because at that point, I literally saw life flashing out of me. Literally. Because I was like, this is it for me. This is it. And of course, Dad had already panicked. Our neighbors, everybody had already panicked. And we were like, yeah, we're just going to die. When we die, we die. But, it is what it is. And so this guy, this soldier, okay. Yeah, they're telling me that our time is over. But I remember that there are angels, guys, in this world. There are angels. And for those of you who don't believe in God, I submit to you, God exists, guys. I don't know whether I would be alive today if it had not been for that guy, for that soldier. I don't know if the Russian family would be alive. I don't know if there were a few other family members of ours. I don't know if they will be alive today. Hopefully next time I'll let you know how we continue with that guy. But I want to tell you guys, especially you Rwandan people who have stories. Sorry, I don't feel like talking anymore. But I want you to know that people have gone through really horrific times in Rwanda. People went through death many times, day in and day out. People died watching their own death, being chopped with machetes. If you were lucky, they shot you. You wished for a bullet, and the bullet was too expensive to kill you. And today, they call me a genocidal. Can you believe that? The Rwandan government has the audacity to call me a genocidal. The rebel, those guys who are fighting with the government, today I'm called a genocidal, or a son of a genocidal, or a genocide denier. There is a way to stigmatize people. There is a way to make you feel like you're below a trash. Because most of them don't know us. They don't know what we've been through, what we have gone through. Minding you, the majority of the people in government today, they were outside of Rwanda. They never experienced any of these horrific things. When I say to you guys, write the history, write your own history. Let's preserve those horrific memories you're living with, those nightmares. They are still memories, no matter how much you want to keep them down there. So it's our history. And we are so sick and tired of the international community coming and actually participating and killing us over and over and over and over again. We were children back then. We are growing up today. So now we not only we can actually think with our head, but there are so much injustices that we see every day. Most of us were super afraid. We are scared. Some people don't want to die. They literally have escaped death so many times. But I submit to you, None of these people has a saying as to when you die. Now I understand it. But back then I never understood. I thought I was at the mercy of those killers. So all of you who are literally helping the Rwandese government today, the government that exists in 2022 in Rwanda, so much is going to be asked of you. They are responsible for countless lives that they have killed, that they have wrongfully accused for the things that they have never done. And you, the international community, are aware of it. And you have said nothing about it these past 28 years. And that's why we're here today, because we want to set the record straight. With or without you wanting it, with or without you saying it, with or without you supporting us, we will do the right thing by our own people. And those of you Rwandese people, those of you Africans who actually want to save your own bellies, we're putting you on notice as well. If you wrongfully accuse someone and we found out that you have been wrongfully accusing people, may you be judged to the fullest of the law. May you be judged to the fullest of the law. So thank you so much to all of those of you listening, watching. These things are not easy to talk about. Not only you feel like naked, but it's like you reliving the moment. There are images I can never forget that usually get stuck. And when we talk about this, like right now, we also filtering. There's some things that you just can't find the words for it. You can just see it like a movie. And now start wondering, why is it that sometimes you see people snapping, sometimes you see people with traumatic experiences and you're like, that person may be crazy. You just don't know what these people have gone through. So be a part of the solution, not continuing the problems. So let me end it here, guys. Thank you so much. I also want to welcome all of you. Come and share your history. Let's write our own history. Let's write our own testimony. Your testimony is rich, is yours. It's a part of you. Whether you choose to write it down for it to be preserved, or whether you remain ashamed and you stay ashamed and they keep you under those shoes, it's up to you. But I would encourage you. I would strongly encourage you. Don't allow people to define you. Don't allow people to define your life. Never, never allow people to define you. It's not fair. It's not fair. And don't be the one. So again, thank you so much. I welcome you all to our Free Dominion show. Be sure to leave us some feedbacks. Website www.afreedominion.com. Our main email, it's info@afreedominion.com. Until next time, thank you kindly, guys. I am Freeman Singirankabo with Free Dominion. So long.